Well, surprising no one, Alec Baldwin wants to get his involuntary manslaughter charge tossed before the trial starts. Apparently, no gun, no crime. Sorry, what? Interesting. I followed this Rust shooting situation for some time. It's been a wild ride. We're now over a year. Well over a year since all of this began. It's, quite crazy, actually. But yeah, Alec Baldwin is facing an involuntary manslaughter charge. And as Deadline reports, no crime, no gun. Alec Baldwin wants Rust's involuntary manslaughter charges tossed before trial starts. Well, yeah, you would, wouldn't you? I mean, I wouldn't want to go up against that. So, as Alec Baldwin's involuntary manslaughter trial looms, the Rust star producer is again attempting to get a judge to dismiss the charges stemming from the fatal 2021. Wow. Wow, it was 2021. I didn't realise it was 3 years ago. Holy shit. Shooting of cinematographer Helena Hutchins on the New Mexico set of the indie film. And it says this: because the state does not even allege that Baldwin was aware of any level of risk, let alone a substantial risk, that the gun was loaded with live ammunition, he is innocent as a matter of law. And that's one of two filings that Baldwin's defense team filed, basically. It says the following: the state has not alleged facts that constitute a crime. Baldwin's attorneys declare in their 22-page motion to dismiss the indictment for failure to allege a criminal crime, even taking every allegation that the state has presented as true, solely for the purpose of this motion, defendant Alec Baldwin could not have been aware of a substantial risk that his alleged actions could cause the death of Helena Hutchins because he had no reason to believe that the firearm contained live ammunition. Isn't that the point of accidental manslaughter, though? I mean, I don't know. I'm not litigiously minded, so yeah, it's new to me, basically. So there's a footnote in the filing which may offer a strong hint of where the defence will lay their emphasis in the upcoming hearing. The state, check this out, the state may assert that Baldwin acted with criminal negligence because he did not inspect the firearm after the designated safety professionals had already done so. Putting aside the fact that the state already took the opposite position at Gutierrez-Reed's trial, and that, regardless, this argument doesn't change the absence of Baldwin's subjective awareness of a substantial risk to human life on set, the state's own... What? Okay. State's own adb, having always maintained his innocence... Okay, they've absolutely screwed that, haven't they? Good job, Deadline. Anyway. So it says this: having always maintained his innocence and insisting that he never pulled the trigger on the Colt 45, but then that's also been debunked by the FBI and other people, that you would have had to have pulled the trigger, or at least pulled the hammer back. So he says he never pulled the trigger on the Colt 45 that killed Helena Hutchins and wounded Rust director Joel Souza. Baldwin will see his dismissal move assessed in a May 17th virtual hearing, the court's announced today. The session before Judge Mary Marlowe Sommer comes less than 2 months before the trial of the recharged Baldwin is set to begin on July 9th in Santa Fe. So like currently incarcerated Rust armourer Hannah Gutierrez-Reed, Baldwin could be sentenced to 18 months behind bars and thousands in fines if found guilty. Gutierrez-Reed was successfully convicted of involuntary manslaughter by the Land of Enchantment jury, interesting name, in just a few hours on March 6th. Already taken into custody after the verdict came down, the 27-year-old Gutierrez-Reed was sentenced on April 14th. So having tried time and time again to get this case thrown out since their client had charges refiled against him back in January, Baldwin's lawyers have brought back an old complaint in their May 6th destruction of evidence filing. And so this is the interesting thing. They're trying to say that, and I thought this was very bizarre at the time. So there's an old complaint, May 6th, destruction of evidence. From the first time the actor was charged in early 2023, the primary evidence is in pieces. It had to be reconstructed. And this is what it says. The government took the most critical evidence in this case, the firearm, and destroyed it by repeatedly and pointlessly striking it with a mallet. What? It was the weirdest thing when I heard all of this. Like, why did you do that? They're like, well, like they were checking to see whether it would have gone off, and they're like, we're just gonna whack it with a mallet. I remember at the time thinking, because we didn't hear at the time how it had been destroyed. We just heard that it had been pieced back together. We're like, what? How has it been destroyed? Bizarre. Government agents knew that the firearm would not survive their clumsy tests intact. They said so explicitly in emails, but at the insistence of prosecutors eager to prove a celebrity's guilt, they nevertheless blundered ahead without preserving the original state of the firearm through photographs, video, or other means. Without informing Baldwin or his counsel, they were conducting destructive testing, and without any realistic prospect that bludgeoning the gun would reveal whether Baldwin had pulled the trigger on the day of the accident. What the fuck? Why did you do this? Anyone gun-minded, tell me why they did this. Why did they hit it with a mallet? Under time-honoured principles of due process, the charges must be dismissed. The law is clear. The government may not knowingly deprive the defence of potentially useful evidence by destroying it. Indeed, even where the government acts with mere negligence, let alone the intentional ineptitude on display here, the destruction of apparently exculpatory evidence violates due process. It is difficult to find a reported decision with a more egregious constellation of facts. Premeditated destruction of the key evidence by government agents for no justifiable reason, at the insistence of prosecutors determined to prove Baldwin's guilt, and without even the most rudimentary efforts to document the original condition of that evidence. That is very difficult to argue with. Prosecutors have asserted that the gun was not destroyed in FBI testing, and claims to the contrary are posturing by the defence. A month ago, the special prosecutor said that Baldwin and his lawyers have engaged in relentless misleading statements. I mean, if that is true, they're fucked. And false claims in the case, citing material supposedly leaked to the media, a plea deal gone south, and a strong arming of documentary subjects. The prosecutors keep coming back to what they call Baldwin's complete lack of concern for the safety of those around him on the deeply troubled Rust set, which is well documented at this point. So recharged with involuntary manslaughter over 4 months ago, and having entered a not guilty plea. Not long afterward, Baldwin is also up against around half a dozen civil cases in California and New Mexico courts related to the Rust shooting. So, yeah, this is quite interesting, to be honest. The film has been finished. It's not been picked up by any buyers, obviously. Yeah. No gun, no trial. No gun, no crime. So it's quite a strong defence, really. If that is true, that's a strong-ass defence. But why'd you hit it with a mallet? Let me know. Take care.